Is going to have to pay much more money to the post office. There's no doubt about that.
Trump has also scorched Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos for negative coverage of the administration in the Washington Post, which he also owns. Let's discuss the president's accusations with Republican National Committee woman for California, Harmeet Dhillon, and radio talk show host and political analyst Garland Nixon. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Harmeet, I want to go with you first. This seems to be a personal feud, to put it lightly, between the president and Jeff Bezos. Is that the root of everything that's going on here? Or does the president really have a strong point to make on the unfair advantages, as the president says, that Amazon has?
Well, I think both are true. Clearly, the president is irked at the unfair coverage that he gets from the Washington Post. But on the other hand, there are some serious issues with the United States Postal Service. It's had the same rates and allocation of expenses to the package delivery part of its business since 2007. And so it's really way overdue for an adjustment. Back in 2007, as we all know, we didn't have such a dependence on mail order as we do today, and Amazon's business was a mere fraction of what it is today. And one of the big problems the president's facing is that he has nominated 4 members of the Postal Regulatory Commission, but they're being held up in the Senate along with a number of other nominees. And now, if he got those people in place, he'd be able to have some adjustment of those rates and some right sizing of those rates. So there is some subsidy going on, but it's not really anybody's fault. B, we could really look at one more point here. We could really look at the pension issues. The reason that the Postal Service runs a negative and a deficit is because it has to prepay its pension for 75 years worth of benefits.
No, you're 100% right on that.
$5.5 billion a year.
I spent a lot of time on the postal issues. The decline in first-class mail, the pension issues are a big thing. Here's the take that comes from the Dallas Morning News. If we put up this graphic here and the headline, Trump can attack Amazon, but Americans will keep buying what Bezos is selling. So, Garland, is the president have a good point, or is Jeff Bezos on the right side of this equation?
Well, I don't think it's an either or. I think the president is in error for a number of reasons, not the least of which being that the post office was never created to make a profit any more than a police department or a fire department is in business to make a profit. They've always been subsidized by the government so that businesses and American citizens can have their mail delivered at a subsidized and reasonable price. So I think he's out of line there. Number 2, this is a personal issue with the president. He is upset at the Washington Post, and so he's going after Amazon. I don't think he has a problem with billionaires.
So do you think, Garland, do you think that the only reason? Do you think the only reason the president, or that Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post? I mean, why would he has a lot of holdings? He did it personally, not through Amazon, but he bought it personally. Why do you think Jeff Bezos bought, of all the papers, the Washington Post?
Now, you're not going to get me to defend that, because as a radio talk show host, trust me, I've made some statements about that issue myself, that I'm not thrilled with Jeff Bezos owning the Washington Post. However, I think it's disingenuous for the president to say he has a problem with billionaires owning media outlets. I think he only has a problem with wealthy people owning media outlets that are critical of him. And that's what it's all about.
Does he have does he have a good point there? I mean, the Washington Post.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. I think it is a valid concern, and there is a perception out there, as the president mentioned, that these big conglomerates, and it's not just Amazon, there are other big conglomerates. Google is another one that is dominating the market and taking away business from mom and pop shops at the retail store level. But on the other hand, I have to say, as an Amazon user myself, I really value the convenience, and a lot of mom and pop operations are now selling their products through Amazon. So I think all of this can be adjusted by getting his nominees in place at the Postal Regulatory Commission, and then adjusting some of those rates here and there, and making sure that it's fair for everybody.
I want to put up this graphic, or play this sound from the former budget director for Ronald Reagan.
I think he's right about Amazon for the wrong reason. It is a predatory monster that is destroying value, jobs, businesses, assets all over America.
So, Garland, from your perspective, at what point does Amazon become too big or too powerful? Are there antitrust issues that we should be looking at?
Well, I think it's reasonable to look at antitrust issues, but the other part of it is this is kind of the nature of where the internet's going, and there is a different economy that we're living in. I don't think that Amazon is the only problem that we have. To be honest with you, I'd have to start with criticizing the recent tax bill that the Republicans put through and say that's contributing to inequality. But I don't think that
by allowing the American people to have their own money in their own wallets. What's wrong with that?
Well, I think Jeff Bezos got what, a $2 billion tax increase? I think most of us didn't get $2 billion. I mean, tax decrease.
But I'm telling you, the average person has a significant impact. What do you see happening with the tax question in California? We got one of the highest tax rates in the country. So the tax reform package, you think that is what one of the problems is?
I certainly think it contributed to inequality by a large portion. So while he may
Harmeet, let
be
me get your take on it. We got to wrap up here, but Harmeet, what's your take on it?
No, I don't think so. I value the democratization of everybody's approach to being able to buy products. And, you know, every hour or every minute that I save in buying products on the internet is time that I can spend back in my business. So there are two sides of this coin. And finally, these companies have been paying their taxes now. Amazon pays its income tax, it pays its sales taxes. And so it is fair. And, you know, we have to look at some regulation where they're using excessive power to stifle competition. But that's a specific examples. Overall, I think it's a good thing.
Well, thank you both for being here. I do appreciate it. Thanks for the discussion, and have a good evening.